State of GeoNetwork presented by Jody Garnett.
Thanks, folks. Once again, I'm here on behalf of a community I take part in this case, the GeoNetwork community. So I'm actually giving this presentation kind of on the shoulders of others. Antonio, who's a GeoNetwork committer, but he's kind of heading up the GeoNetwork 5 project. Jose and Francois, which are kind of the core GeoNetwork committers and maintainers, and Florent from the GeoNetwork project. And my coworker from Canada, David Blasby, is strangely absent from this slide. I'll have to fix that. And I'm part of the GeoCat team at GeoCat Canada, and I'm kind of here as a GeoNetwork enthusiast. I do get a chance to go in there on occasion and mess with metadata, but I don't claim any special expertise. I did get commit access recently, though, so I'm happy about that. GeoNetwork at a glance, it is a catalog to share and manage and edit records. The edit is especially important to GeoNetwork as a project. There's lots of services that will allow you to manage and store and search records in Elasticsearch, but the editor in GeoNetwork is a key kind of interesting thing. It does support some protocols in order to be accessed from clients, catalog service web, and new this year OGC API records. And then behind the scenes, GeoNetwork is very good at working with different formats of records. So you can have a record to describe your information, and then the different standards bodies and so on have different recipes for what that record should look like, ISO 19139 and so on. So here's a little bit of an overview of the GeoNetwork ecosystem. We've got GeoNetwork Core. This is the GeoNetwork engine. There's two versions in active use right now, version 4.4 and 4.2. I'll be providing updates on those. We've got the Metadata 101 schema repository, and this is where the various national and industry groups manage their metadata schemas. GeoNetwork UI is an alternate front end for GeoNetwork, so it's built on top of GeoNetwork Core. We have a little Docker distribution of GeoNetwork, and we also have the new GeoNetwork 5 project, which I'll have a chance to talk about. GeoNetwork 5 is taking over from the earlier GeoNetwork microservices experiment. So I'm here talking to you today on behalf of GeoCat, and the product that we produce around GeoNetwork, our enterprise distribution of GeoNetwork, is called GeoCat Find, and you can see me off in the wilds of Canada there. So community updates. So we have done a leadership change in GeoNetwork. We ran into the awkward situation where we had kind of more people on our steering committee than active developers, and it was proving a little bit ineffectual. So I spent a little bit of time writing little scripts to figure out who's actually reviewing pull requests, and we've rewarded those people with kind of the ability to vote on the roadmap and so on. So thanks for all our traditional steering committee members over the years. This change has been very nice for allowing the project to proceed. So the pros here is we are recognizing those, putting in the hard work of doing maintenance, reviewing pull requests, making released. Now, the downside is if you volunteer and do maintenance and releases, you're rewarded with a little bit more work. You know, the requests that we vote, the request that we want you to vote on things. So Jose in particular, who does a lot of the reviews, his reaction was that he wanted a pony. We also had a GeoNetwork user meeting organized by Swiss Topo, and this is something I really like about the GeoNetwork community, that they get together, listen to each other, and set some roadmap and development priorities for the year ahead. So things that were very much of interest to the GeoNetwork community was DCAT, which we'll talk a bit about this presentation. Especially they were interested when they're editing their records on getting like validation feedback. Are we missing anything that's needed when we published a DCAT? The other thing that was interesting is folks are wishing to use GeoNetwork just as a normal catalog, not necessarily specific to geospatial data. And I think that's a reflection on how nice GeoNetwork is to use, but also a little bit of a reflection of on the usability of the normal catalogs. So we also had some very good discussions about GeoNetwork 5. With the change of leadership, we've also established some really nice communication pathways. So we've got a bi-weekly meeting that is GeoNetwork 4, and then in 2 weeks' time it's GeoNetwork 5, and it alternates between those two kind of emphasis. So that started in April, and we've got folks from camp to camp and GeoNetwork leading those meetings. We do have a vulnerability to talk about, and this vulnerability actually came from the GeoTools library. And this resulted in kind of an emergency release of GeoNetwork earlier in the year. So if you haven't updated, please do update. We are serious about our security vulnerabilities. There's also a mitigation you can apply in order to disable the specific functionality where the vulnerability occurred. We also have some website updates, and I did this at one of the code sprints where we went through the website and refreshed it a little bit, describing what the catalog is for, what a catalog does, rather than just talking about ISO numbers. We actually showed the editor, which so many people value. It wasn't previously visible on the website. We also talked about a few of the plugins that have been added. So GeoNetwork comes out of the box with some functionality, but if you add a plugin, you can have that data hub alternate UI, or you could have different cloud storage options. And then we also made a change to indicate what is the latest and stable downloads. Okay. Next up, we've got GeoNetwork 4. GeoNetwork 4.4. This is the current development branch where new features surface for use by our community. We've been doing a lot of work on harvesters and integration, so being able to retrieve data from SFTP servers or other GeoNetwork 4 servers using this metadata exchange format, which has the record along with all its attachments and thumbnails and so on, and also being able to retrieve records from these stack collections. And here's a kind of a fun one, and I'm going to get this wrong. Your own might have to correct me. This is the open something server? Open Archive. So this is a server that we were able to harvest from in GeoNetwork 3, but the functionality was based on the loose. Okay. Serving, not harvesting. I am wrong twice. This was functionality protocol that we had in GeoNetwork 3 that didn't have funding to make the change over to Elasticsearch. So it's now received that funding, and this service is now available in GeoNetwork 4. So that's good news. We've also made the change to our documentation from Sphinx to MKDocs. So for everyone who likes Markdown, GeoNetwork's easier to contribute to. Our most recent release was made in October, so just last month. That requires Java 11 and Elasticsearch 8.14. And this is our latest branch. It has new features, security updates, and so on. The big changes here are updates to the DCAT application profiles and schema plugins, that Data Hub plugin, and additional language support. Back to GeoNetwork 4.2. This is our stable branch of GeoNetwork used by a lot of production systems. It's working on Java 8 and Elasticsearch version 7. So this is really focused on bug fixes, and security updates are backported to this version. Some features are occasionally backported, but it's, yeah. And then I do want to say that this version is rapidly approaching end of life. So I expect this version to be maintained until, say, the end of the year, and then GeoNetwork 4.4 will take over as the stable branch. GeoNetwork UI. This is a web component Angular front end for GeoNetwork. It's recently been made available as a GeoNetwork plugin, and this project continues to proceed apace. Here's a little example of the integration plugin, and there's documentation in the manual. The next thing that I'd like to chat about is DCAT application profile. So this is, was really highlighted as a theme by the GeoNetwork community. So this is a data catalog vocabulary. The one that we're talking about here is an application profile for the Netherlands. This was funded by the Cadastre Agency, the Dutch Cadastre Agency. And the result was a document describing how to map from the ISO records in GeoNetwork to the DCAT application profile. And then using this document, we've been able to make transformations so that we can publish the records according to this profile. So this is a very positive development. So with this work in mind, you can now export, download the document in this profile. You can actually display a very simple web page. This is actually intended to be like browsed by web crawlers and so on. So this is the record, but with only the content converted to DCAT. And then this is an interesting one. When you're using the editor, there's an extra set of validations you can enable to let you know if any information required for DCAT is missing from your record. So that gives you feedback. If that validation passes, your record is going to be able to be exported to DCAT-AP NL. So this was done a little sprint in the Netherlands. Here's the CSW output, and so on. So this has been a real theme for the GeoNetwork development community working on DCAT. The next theme we're working on, which is probably something that's familiar to people from the previous talks in this room, is working on the new OGC API protocols. So the kind of generation 1 OGC services, catalog service web, that are based on XML are going to be gradually phased out over the next 5 years, and they're going to be replaced with these OGC API protocols, which are REST and JSON based. So that's what this slide says. We got part 1, which is really focused on advertising the records as a OGC API collection. And then we also have part 2 we're working on, which provides the idea of facets, and I'll have a picture of that in a moment. But the idea here is that as the standard is developed, we are updating and working on an implementation for GeoNetwork at the same time. So OGC API records shows up as a REST JSON service. You can enable one of these services for every portal in your your GeoNetwork. It supports queryables and the core GeoJSON format. Also through this endpoint, we have access to a lot of the GeoNetwork for formatters that have been ported. So the DCAT-AP work I was just talking about, DataCite, and more is in progress. So this is for accessing a single record. If you're used to using GeoNetwork, facets show up on the left side of the screen, and they show you a total or a summary for the different kinds of resources that are in your result set. So your query, in addition to listing records, can also give you a little bit of a breakdown of what kind of records came back. And this is the part 2 specification. And we've got the ability to perform a similar result when we are using OGC API records. I was just hoping to have a screen snap, but I don't see it. We have support for queryables, so this allows you to not just search the entire record, you could also choose specific fields in the record to search. So this example shows querying the contact details for a specific text. You can service anything from Elasticsearch, and you can start to do complex queries. Output formats, GeoJSON, JSON, XML, HTML, a lot of the formats I talked about previously. One thing that's interesting about our implementation, we start our implementation from the OpenAPI document provided by the standards body. So they provide that as a little YAML file saying your service has to do this. We clean that up a little bit for Java. So Java is a strongly typed language. It cares whether something's a string or an integer. So we simplify it a little bit, and then we're able to generate the code, which we then fill in to talk to the internals of GeoNetwork. Yeah, so Jeroen, I think OGC API Records is scheduled to come out this year for the community. Okay. So look forward to that as part of GeoNetwork 5. So I got about 5 minutes for GeoNetwork 5. That's perfect. So for GeoNetwork 5, we are running into, I guess, a motivation for this, in that the library we use to put GeoNetwork together is called Spring Framework, and the version we're using has reached the end of life. And that has a knock-on effect. We have to update a whole bunch of different technologies. We've got to change Java from 11 to 17, and importantly, that means we need to update our XML engine from Saxon 9, which was released in 2008, to the latest one. And that means we need to kind of road test all of the schema plugins that have ever been developed for GeoNetwork. So this makes a cascade of technologies that need to be updated. We had two alternatives to consider. One was update things in place, go from Spring Framework 5 to 6. The other one was to migrate from Spring Framework to Spring Boot, which is a kind of more modern environment, making use of annotations rather than configuration files. We've chosen to go with the Spring Boot approach, and during development, you will run kind of one application of GeoNetwork 5 alongside GeoNetwork 4. And as we go through development, functionality that is imported to GeoNetwork 5 will execute there. Anything that's not ported yet will delegate through to the GeoNetwork 4 implementation. So using this approach, we can gradually build up GeoNetwork 5 over time. And when we are done, we'll get a complete standalone GeoNetwork 5 implementation. Now, GeoServer faced exactly this same problem. And for GeoServer, we did it as an all-or-one, collect the funding, and only when we had the pledges would we go and start the work. GeoNetwork 5 is going to take a different approach. We've broken it into a series of modules. The first module is to offer read-only catalog services. So OGC API records will be one of the first GeoNetwork 5s you can download and run alongside. It'll make use of the same Elasticsearch and database you're used to. We'll also have the CSW endpoint available. Milestone 2, we're going to start to add the configuration and security, so you can restrict what content is published and who it's available to, and we'll also test some of the newer formats at the same time. Milestone 3 is an important one. We'll start to look at doing catalog population, either adding things using create, read, update, delete, or harvesting endpoints. So this would be nice in that it would allow you to deploy GeoNetwork 5 independently of a GeoNetwork 4. Milestone 4, we start to implement enough of the application that the public search functionality can be run. So either the Data Hub UI or the traditional GeoNetwork 4 catalog browser. So here's what that looks like. Milestone 5, we start to look at the metadata management and review workflow, so reviewing records for publication. And milestone 6, we port the editor over. So together, this gives us a phased approach to migrate from Spring Framework 5 to Spring Framework 6. So here's what this looks like. GeoCat and our customers are currently paying to implement milestone 1 and 2, and this represents resources that are committed to the activity. But we don't have a set time frame. If you are interested in taking part, either in kind or financially, please talk to us. This transition is very important for the health of the application and the GeoNetwork ecosystem. Thank you. One minute early.
Are there any questions? None?
Come on, give me one question.
There we go.
I'm curious to know, I know there was a kerfuffle about Elasticsearch and OpenSearch,
Right.
fork and all that sort of thing. Is it still the recommended direction is Elasticsearch? Is the open source license for that compatible with like deploying, etc.?
So the answer is people are idiots? No. The answer is that so for a little while they went source available, which would mean that our application was not built on an open source framework, which was a little bit worrying for us, understandably. And we certainly did look at whether to make a little layer and switch between OpenSearch and Elasticsearch. But since that time, they have adopted a free software license for Elasticsearch. And we are also a free software application. So we are happy that they've come back kind of into the fold. For context, the difficulty here is that Amazon was making lots of money off Elasticsearch and not contributing anything back. And so they made a source available license that basically said, you know what, everyone except Amazon can enjoy our software. And Amazon was understandably upset, and they made a fork of the project called OpenSearch. And what's amusing is they're actually running it as a reasonably okay open source project, so they know how to do the work. They were just, what's the right word, freeloading a bit. So it's one of these ones where I have sympathies for everybody involved, and I'm glad that the Elasticsearch company has found a way forward that is in keeping with our free software values.
Excellent, thank you for that. I stopped paying attention when it was happening, so I appreciate that summary.
No, we were tracking that one. Good question.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming and thank you for presenting. Lunch will be served in the foyer.